The Intergalactic Council's announcement of Earth's inclusion in the Galactic Strength Tournament sent shockwaves through the human population. Every 1,000 years, this competition determined the strongest species in the known universe. Earth, a newly discovered planet, received an invitation as a mere courtesy, despite being considered primitive by galactic standards. The tournament's venue, Nexus Prime, boasted a colossal arena designed to accommodate various alien physiologies. As news of the event spread, controversy erupted on Earth. The global lottery system, implemented to select Earth's representative, chose Gerald Howard, a 35-year-old male of average build. Many argued that a professional athlete should represent humanity instead. Gerald's journey to Nexus Prime marked his first experience with zero gravity and faster-than-light travel. The alien shuttle whisked him across the cosmos, leaving him both exhilarated and apprehensive about the challenges ahead. Upon arrival, Gerald encountered Pryler, a towering, feline-like Cation male serving as the tournament's chief organizer. Pryler's imposing presence emphasized the vast differences between Earth and the galactic community. He explained the tournament rules. Each species' champion must complete a series of physical challenges. The stakes were monumental. Victory would catapult Earth into a new era of technological advancement, while a poor showing could result in Earth being deemed unworthy of further contact. The medical examination that followed only heightened Gerald's anxiety. Alien doctors expressed shock at his frail physiology compared to other contestants. News of the human's apparent weakness spread rapidly, leading to mockery and dismissal of Earth's chances. The defending champion Grokthar of the silicon-based Petrosians openly laughed at Gerald's presence. Undeterred, Gerald began training in the alien gym facilities. He struggled to adapt to the advanced equipment, discovering that standard Earth gravity was considered low by galactic standards. The tournament would take place in average gravity, 2.5 times that of Earth. Gerald pushed himself to acclimate, suffering muscle strains and exhaustion in the process. As Gerald fought against his physical limitations, Pryler found himself intrigued by the human's determination. The Cation began studying human history, uncovering Earth's long tradition of underdog victories. This newfound knowledge sparked a glimmer of curiosity in Pryler's mind about the potential hidden within this seemingly unremarkable human. The approaching opening ceremony loomed over Gerald like a shadow. He faced not only the immense physical challenges ahead, but also the crushing psychological pressure of representing his entire species on the galactic stage. The weight of humanity's future rested squarely on his shoulders. As alien champions from across the universe gathered, their powerful physiques and advanced adaptations on full display, Gerald stood among them, a solitary figure representing a planet many considered inconsequential. Yet, in his eyes burned a fierce determination, a uniquely human spirit that refused to yield in the face of overwhelming odds. The stage was set for an unprecedented showdown. Would this ordinary human defy expectations and shock the intergalactic community? Or would Earth's first foray into galactic competition end in humiliation? The answers lay in the grueling trials ahead, where Gerald Howard would test the limits of human potential against the mightiest beings the universe had to offer. The grand arena on Nexus Prime bustled with an energy unlike anything Gerald had ever experienced. Thousands of alien species, each more bizarre and fantastical than the last, filled the stands. The air buzzed with a cacophony of languages, some verbal, others telepathic or expressed through complex pheromones. Gerald marched alongside the other contestants, his heart pounding in his chest. He felt like a child among giants, dwarfed by the towering, multi-limbed or amorphous forms of his fellow competitors. The crowd's reaction to his entrance was immediate and unmistakable. Curious murmurs mixed with derisive laughter, echoing through the vast space. A gelatinous being to Gerald's left gurgled something that his universal translator rendered as, "Is that the human? I thought they'd be bigger." "Maybe it's still growing," chittered an insectoid creature nearby, eliciting more laughter. Gerald gritted his teeth, forcing himself to keep his eyes forward. He'd known this would be difficult, but the reality of his situation was starting to sink in. These beings weren't just stronger, they were evolved for environments he could scarcely imagine. The opening ceremony was a blur of lights, holographic displays, and booming announcements in countless languages. Gerald tried to take it all in, but his mind kept drifting to the challenges ahead. When the first test was announced, a trial of raw strength, his stomach dropped. One by one, the alien champions stepped up to the challenge. Gerald watched in awe as beings of all shapes and sizes effortlessly hoisted objects that looked impossibly heavy. The crowd roared with each impressive feat, the energy in the arena building to a fever pitch. Then came Grokthar's turn. The Petrosian champion, a massive humanoid seemingly carved from living stone, approached the final object, a gleaming cube of ultra-dense material. With a flex of his crystalline muscles, Grokthar lifted the cube high above his head, holding it there as if it weighed no more than a feather. The arena erupted in cheers as the announcer declared a new tournament record. "Let's see the human try that," Grokthar's gravelly voice boomed, casting a dismissive glance at Gerald. Heart racing, palms sweating, Gerald stepped forward for his attempt. The moment his feet touched the challenge area, he felt the crushing weight of the increased gravity. His legs trembled, unused to the strain of simply standing in this environment. Gerald approached the first and lightest object, a sleek, metallic sphere. He planted his feet, gripped the sphere, and pulled with all his might. It didn't budge. He tried again, straining until his face turned red, but the sphere remained stubbornly in place. The crowd's laughter grew louder, more mocking. Gasping for breath, Gerald stepped back, his mind racing. He couldn't fail here, not like this. Earth was counting on him. He studied the sphere, noting its perfectly smooth surface. An idea sparked in his mind. Without hesitation, Gerald stripped off his shirt. Ignoring the confused murmurs from the crowd, he fashioned the garment into a makeshift rope. He looped it around the sphere, creating a handle of sorts. What's the human doing? The question rippled through the arena. Using his improvised tool, Gerald managed to gain enough leverage to drag the sphere across the arena floor. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't fast, but he was moving it. The laughter in the crowd died down, replaced by a puzzled silence. Emboldened by his small success, Gerald tackled the next object, a larger cube. Again, he used his shirt rope, this time finding a way to create a pulley system using the cube's edges. Slowly but surely, he inched the cube to its designated spot. With each unconventional solution, the crowd's reaction shifted. Some beings leaned forward in their seats, intrigued by the human's resourcefulness. Others grumbled about the unorthodox methods. Finally, Gerald faced the ultimate challenge, the massive cube Grokthar had lifted with ease. Even with his makeshift tools, Gerald couldn't make it budge. Sweat poured down his face as he frantically searched for a solution. That's when he spotted it, a small control panel on the cube's side. The sight triggered a memory of his struggles with the alien gym equipment. Taking a chance, Gerald manipulated the controls. Suddenly, the cube's weight seemed to lessen. With a burst of effort, he managed to push it across the finish line. The arena exploded into chaos. Half the crowd cheered, impressed by the human's ingenuity. The other half, including many officials, shouted protests. Grokthar's crystalline face contorted in rage. "Cheater!" the Petrosian champion roared. "The human should be disqualified." Pryler, the Cation organizer, strode onto the challenge floor, his tail swishing agitatedly. He conferred with a panel of judges, their heated debate carried out in hushed tones and subtle gestures. After what felt like an eternity, Pryler turned to address the arena. The human's methods, while unusual, do not violate any specific rules of the competition. Gerald Howard will be allowed to proceed to the next round. The announcement was met with a mix of cheers and boos. Gerald stood in the center of it all, exhausted and overwhelmed. He had survived the first challenge, but at what cost? The other contestants glared at him with a mixture of curiosity and hostility. As Gerald left the challenge floor, he noticed a slender, blue-skinned alien approaching Pryler. Her movements were graceful, almost fluid, and she carried herself with an air of authority. Gerald's translator picked up fragments of their conversation. "What fascinating display of problem-solving. A potential value to the galactic community." We'll keep a close eye on this human. Gerald had little time to ponder the exchange. He was ushered away to prepare for the next challenge, his knees going weak from the events of the day. He had made it through the first test, but he knew the real challenges were just beginning. The other contestants would be watching him closely now, looking for weaknesses to exploit. As he followed his alien guide to the preparation area, Gerald couldn't shake the feeling that he had set something much larger than himself in motion. For better or worse, he had caught the attention of the galactic community. Now, he just had to figure out how to survive what came next. Gerald barely had time to catch his breath before the second challenge was announced. The arena's floor shifted and morphed, transforming into a vast, multi-terrain obstacle course that stretched as far as the eye could see. Contestants, Pryler's voice boomed across the stadium. This challenge will test your endurance and adaptability. You must navigate through environments mimicking the home worlds of various competing species. Your performance will be judged on completion time and efficiency. Gerald's heart raced as he surveyed the course. The first section was a scorching desert, heat waves distorting the air above the sand. Beyond that, he glimpsed a dense jungle, then a field of ice and snow, and finally, a vast body of water. As the starting signal blared, Gerald sprinted forward with the other contestants. The heat hit him like a wall as he entered the desert section. Sweat immediately began to pour down his face, his lungs burning with each breath of the superheated air. Several pyroclastian contestants, their bodies seemingly made of living magma, surged ahead, clearly at home in this environment. Gerald watched in dismay as other competitors began to falter, overcome by the intense heat. Thinking quickly, Gerald stripped off his shirt and fashioned it into a makeshift turban, shielding his head and neck from the relentless sun. He forced himself to slow down, conserving energy and the precious moisture in his body. "Look at the human," a crystalline voice sneered. It was Grokthar, effortlessly striding through the sand, still playing dress-up instead of competing. Gerald ignored the taunt, focusing on maintaining a steady pace. His strategy paid off as he passed several collapsed contestants, their bodies unable to withstand the extreme conditions. As he entered the jungle section, Gerald felt the crushing weight of increased gravity bearing down on him. The dense foliage made progress slow and arduous. Nearby, a tentacled creature effortlessly swung through the trees, while a bulky reptilian being simply smashed through the underbrush. Gerald's legs trembled with each step, his muscles screaming in protest. Then he noticed the vines hanging from the towering trees. An idea struck him. Gripping a sturdy vine, he tested its strength before using it to swing forward. It worked. Using this improvised vine-swinging technique, Gerald made swift progress through the jungle. He couldn't match the speed of the native jungle dwellers, but he was far outpacing those trying to slog through on foot. The Arctic zone hit him like a physical blow, the sudden cold stealing his breath away. Ice crunched beneath his feet as he carefully picked his way forward. All around him, contestants struggled against the freezing wind and treacherous terrain. Gerald kept moving, knowing that stopping meant certain failure. He observed the ice formations, noting how some areas seemed more stable than others. Using this knowledge, he plotted a careful path forward, avoiding the spots where other competitors had fallen through the ice. A horrifying screech filled the air as a favored contestant, a being made of living flame, was disqualified after its core temperature dropped too low. Gerald pressed on, his human physiology proving surprisingly resilient in the face of the extreme cold. The final aquatic section loomed before him. Gerald took a deep breath, eyeing the other contestants. Some had transformed into aquatic forms, while others produced breathing apparatus from hidden pouches. Gerald had no such advantages. Plunging into the water, Gerald swam with all his might. His lungs burned as he pushed deeper, fighting against the increasing pressure. Just as his vision began to darken at the edges, he spotted a small air pocket trapped in a rock formation. Gerald used these hidden air reserves to progress through the underwater course, pushing the limits of his lung capacity between each precious gasp of air. He emerged from the water gasping and sputtering, his muscles quivering with exhaustion. As he crossed the finish line, the crowd erupted into a cacophony of cheers, boos, and bewildered exclamations. Gerald collapsed to his knees, gulping in air, barely registering the chaos around him. Unbelievable, an announcer's voice cut through the din. The human Gerald Howard has completed the course with a time placing him in the top 10 performers. The arena descended into bedlam. Shouts of protest mingled with cries of admiration. Gerald looked up to see Grokthar storming towards the judges' panel, his crystalline face contorted with rage. "This is an outrage," the Petrosian champion bellowed. "The human used unnatural methods. He must be disqualified." Other contestants joined in, some defending Gerald's performance, while others called for his removal from the competition. The debate raged on, spreading from the arena floor to the spectator stands and beyond. In the midst of the furor, Gerald noticed the blue-skinned alien he had seen earlier approaching Prylar. Her graceful movement stood out amidst the chaos. "Chief Organizer," she said, her voice calm but forceful. "I am Zix Lara, representing the Arcturian delegation to the Intergalactic Council. We must discuss the implications of this event." Prylar nodded, his feline features tight with concern. "Indeed, Ambassador, it seems we have much to consider." As Gerald was ushered away from the arena floor, he caught fragments of heated discussions erupting all around him. Words like strength, adaptability, and intelligence were being thrown around with increasing frequency. He realized with a mix of pride and trepidation that his performance had sparked something much larger than a simple sporting controversy. The very definition of strength in the galactic community was being called into question. The implications were staggering. Gerald had entered this competition as an afterthought, a representative of a planet deemed too primitive to matter. Now, he found himself at the center of a debate that could reshape the balance of power in the known universe. As he was led to a recovery area, Gerald's mind raced with the possibilities and dangers that lay ahead. The tournament was just the beginning, and he had a feeling that the physical challenges would pale in comparison to the political and diplomatic storms brewing on the horizon. The chaos in the arena continued to escalate, with various factions arguing vehemently about the fairness of Gerald's performance. Amidst the tumult, a piercing whistle cut through the air, silencing the crowd. All eyes turned to the central podium, where Prylar stood alongside a panel of stern-faced judges. "Attention, all beings," Prylar's voice boomed across the arena. "The Intergalactic Council has reconvened and reached a decision regarding the continuation of the tournament." A hush fell over the crowd as Prylar cleared his throat. "The tournament will proceed with modified rules. A new scoring system has been implemented, taking into account adaptability and problem-solving skills alongside physical prowess." The announcement sent shockwaves through the arena. Some species erupted in cheers, while others roared in protest. Gerald, still catching his breath from the previous challenge, felt a mix of relief and apprehension wash over him. "This decision," Prylar continued, raising his voice over the din, "is a step towards a more inclusive galactic community. It recognizes the diverse strengths of all participating species." As the implications of this change sank in, Gerald noticed the blue-skinned Arcturian ambassador Zixalara, nodding approvingly. Her eyes met his for a brief moment, and he saw a glimmer of something akin to respect in her alien gaze. Before Gerald could ponder this further, Prylar's voice rang out once more. "We will now proceed to the third challenge of the tournament. This trial will focus on combat prowess." The arena floor began to shift and reconfigure itself, transforming into a complex battleground with various terrains and obstacles. Holographic displays flickered to life, showcasing the rules of the new challenge. Contestants must defeat a series of increasingly difficult robotic opponents in one-on-one battles, Prylar explained. The arena will simulate various terrains and gravity conditions, changing randomly during each fight. Gerald's heart raced as he surveyed the transformed arena. He was still exhausted from the previous challenges, his muscles aching and his mind turning from the rapid-fire events of the day. As the first round began, Gerald found himself face-to-face with a towering, four-armed robot. Its metallic body gleamed under the arena lights, each limb ending in wickedly sharp claws. The machine's eyes glowed an ominous red as it assessed its human opponent. The starting signal blared, and the robot lunged forward with frightening speed. Gerald barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side as the machine's claws sliced through the air where he had been standing moments before. For the first few minutes of the fight, Gerald was on the defensive, narrowly avoiding the robot's relentless attacks. His human reflexes were pushed to their limits as he ducked, weaved, and scrambled to stay out of reach. As the battle wore on, Gerald began to notice patterns in the robot's movements. Despite its imposing appearance and superior strength, the machine's attacks were predictable, following a set sequence of moves. Just as this realization dawned on him, the arena floor shifted. The solid ground beneath Gerald's feet transformed into a marshy swamp, while the area behind the robot became a rocky outcropping. Gerald stumbled, nearly losing his footing in the sudden change. But then an idea struck him. Using the changing terrain to his advantage, Gerald lured the robot towards the swampy area. The machine's heavy frame began to sink into the soft ground, its movements becoming sluggish and uncoordinated. Seizing his opportunity, Gerald clambered up the rocky outcropping. From this vantage point, he noticed a small panel on the back of the robot's head, a potential weak spot. With a deep breath, Gerald leaped from the rocks, landing squarely on the robot's back. His fingers scrabbled at the panel, prying it open to reveal a complex array of circuits. Acting on instinct, Gerald yanked at a cluster of wires. The robot's movements became erratic, its limbs flailing wildly before it finally collapsed into the swampy ground, deactivated. As Gerald stood victorious over his fallen opponent, the crowd erupted into a mixture of cheers and astonished murmurs. He had barely caught his breath before the next round began, pitting him against an even more formidable robotic adversary. Each subsequent battle pushed Gerald to his limits, forcing him to adapt to new challenges and think creatively. He defeated a high-speed robot by using its own momentum against it, tricking it into crashing into arena obstacles. A heavily armored opponent fell when Gerald targeted its less protected joints, using precision strikes to disable its limbs one by one. As Gerald progressed through the rounds, he noticed other contestants struggling with the unpredictable nature of the challenge. To his surprise, several favorites, including the mighty Grokthar, were eliminated early. The Petrosian champion's reliance on brute force proved ineffective against the more sophisticated robotic opponents, leading to his shocking defeat. During a brief respite between rounds, Gerald found himself approached by an unfamiliar alien. The being's body was covered in an exoskeleton reminiscent of Earth insects, with iridescent wings folded neatly against its back. "Greetings, human," the alien buzzed, its mandibles clicking as it spoke. "I am Zorn of the Vespidian Hive. Your performance has been intriguing." Gerald nodded cautiously, unsure of the alien's intentions. "Thank you. I'm just trying to survive out there." Zorn's compound eyes gleamed with intelligence. "Your tactics are unorthodox but effective. I have fought alongside and against many species, but never have I seen one adapt so quickly to changing circumstances." Before Gerald could respond, Zorn leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Listen carefully, human. Your final opponent will be unlike any you have faced before. It is an AI-driven robot, capable of learning and adapting to your fighting style." Gerald's eyes widened at this information. "How do you fight something like that?" "The key," Zorn chittered, "is not to outsmart it, for that is impossible. You must confuse it, be unpredictable, mix successful techniques with random actions. Deliberate mistakes can become opportunities if you anticipate the AI's response." With a final nod, Zorn retreated, leaving Gerald to ponder this advice as he prepared for the final round. The arena fell silent as Gerald stepped onto the battlefield for the last time. Across from him stood a sleek, humanoid robot, its surface a dull matte black that seemed to absorb light. As the starting signal sounded, the machine's eyes flickered to life, glowing with an eerie blue intelligence. The battle that ensued was like nothing Gerald had ever experienced. The AI robot moved with fluid grace, its attacks precise and calculated. Every time Gerald employed a successful tactic, the machine would adapt, countering his moves with terrifying efficiency. Exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him as the fight dragged on. Gerald's muscles screamed in protest, his lungs burning with each labored breath. The robot, tireless and relentless, showed no signs of slowing down. In a moment of desperation, Gerald recalled Zorn's advice. With nothing left to lose, he began to mix his most effective techniques with completely random actions. He deliberately left openings in his defense, only to capitalize on the robot's predictable responses. The AI's movements became less fluid, its attacks less coordinated as it struggled to make sense of Gerald's chaotic strategy. For a moment, the robot seemed to freeze, its processors overwhelmed by the conflicting data. Seizing this opportunity, Gerald launched a final, desperate attack. He feinted to the left, then spun right, using a move he had seen Grokthar employ in an earlier round. The robot, unable to predict this sudden change in tactics, left itself exposed. With every ounce of strength he had left, Gerald struck at the machine's central processing unit. There was a shower of sparks, a high-pitched whine, and then silence. The AI robot stood motionless for a moment before collapsing to the ground, its glowing eyes fading to darkness. Gerald stood in stunned disbelief, his chest heaving as he struggled to comprehend what had just happened. The arena erupted into a cacophony of cheers, boos, and astonished exclamations. As the dust settled and the final scores were tallied, a shocked hush fell over the crowd. The holographic leaderboard flickered to life, and there, among the top 5 names, was Gerald Howard, Earth. The implications of this achievement sent shockwaves through the assembled aliens. Earth, a planet many had dismissed as an insignificant backwater, now stood among the galaxy's elite. As Gerald was ushered off the arena floor, he caught snippets of urgent conversations erupting all around him. Phrases like diplomatic reassessment and potential allies mingled with worried whispers of emerging threat and balance of power. Before he could process the magnitude of what had just occurred, Gerald found himself face to face with Prylar. The feline alien's expression was a mixture of excitement and concern. "Gerald Howard," Prylar said, his tail swishing agitatedly. "Your performance has been nothing short of revolutionary, but I'm afraid your greatest challenge still lies ahead." Gerald's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" Prylar took a deep breath before continuing. "The final challenges will test not just individual champions, but their entire species. Earth must send additional representatives to compete alongside you or forfeit your position." The blood drained from Gerald's face as the implications sank in. Earth had no faster-than-light travel capabilities, no way to bring more humans to Nexus Prime in time. "But that's impossible," Gerald protested. "We don't have the technology to—" Prylar held up a hand, cutting him off. "I am aware of Earth's limitations. That is why I've come to you directly. We must find a solution, and quickly. The fate of Earth's position in the galactic community hangs in the balance." As Gerald's mind raced with the enormity of this new challenge, he couldn't help but feel that the physical trials he had faced were only the beginning. The true test of humanity's place among the stars was about to begin. Gerald stared at Prylar, his mind turning from the implications of what he had just heard. "But how?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Earth doesn't have the technology to send more people here in time." Prylar's ears twitched as he leaned in closer. "There might be a way," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We have technology that could potentially transfer human consciousness across vast distances." Gerald's eyes widened. "You mean like uploading our minds?" "Yeah, precisely," Prylar nodded. "We could transfer the consciousness of selected humans into specially designed android bodies here on Nexus Prime. It's experimental, but it's our best chance." Over the next few hours, Gerald and Prylar worked tirelessly to refine the plan. As they ironed out the details, urgent messages were sent to Earth, explaining the situation and the proposed solution. Earth's governments, now fully aware of the tournament's significance, sprang into action. A global selection process was quickly organized to choose 5 individuals whose skills would complement Gerald's. Within days, the team was assembled. Major Marcus Steele, a decorated Special Forces soldier, stood at attention as he received his briefing. His intense look reflected years of combat experience and tactical knowledge. Dr. Emily Simpson, a brilliant physicist and engineer, pored over the schematics of the android bodies, her mind already racing with possibilities and potential modifications. Sarah Nkosi, an Olympic gymnast, stretched her lithe body as she contemplated the challenges ahead. Her movements were fluid and precise, honed by years of rigorous training. Captain Jack O'Neill, a grizzled deep-sea salvage expert, took a deep breath as he prepared for yet another journey into the unknown. His weathered face bore testament to a life spent adapting to extreme environments. Maria Rodriguez, a world-famous escape artist and illusionist, shuffled a deck of cards absent-mindedly as she listened to the mission parameters. Her eyes gleamed with a mix of excitement and calculation. The consciousness transfer process was a surreal experience for the 5 new team members. They described it as a momentary sensation of weightlessness, followed by a rush of awareness as they opened their eyes in their new android bodies. Gerald watched in amazement as his new teammates tested their android forms in a specially designed training area on Nexus Prime. The android bodies, while still inferior to many alien species, offered enhanced strength and durability compared to their human forms. Major Steele lifted a heavy piece of equipment with ease, his metallic muscles whirring smoothly. "This is incredible," he said, his voice tinged with awe. "I feel like I could take on a whole platoon single-handedly." Dr. Simpson was already running diagnostics on her new body, her fingers flying over a holographic interface. "The potential here is staggering," she murmured. "If we can optimize these systems, we might be able to push our capabilities even further." As news of Earth's expanded team spread, the reaction from other competing species was swift and hostile. The arena buzzed with angry voices and accusations of cheating. The Intergalactic Council convened an emergency session to address the concerns. Gerald and Pryler stood before the assembled delegates, facing a barrage of questions and accusations. "This is an outrage," bellowed the Petrosian representative, his massive form quivering with anger. "These androids are not human. They are machines, and their use is a clear violation of the tournament rules." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Gerald felt a bead of sweat form on his brow as he stepped forward to speak. "Honorable delegates," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "These android bodies may be artificial, but the minds controlling them are entirely human. We have not enhanced our intellect or decision-making capabilities. We have merely found a way to transport our consciousness across the vast distances of space." The debate raged for hours. Finally, after much deliberation, the council reached its decision. The head of the council, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure, floated to the center of the chamber. "We have ruled," the being announced, its voice resonating through the minds of all present. "The use of android bodies for human consciousness is deemed acceptable within the parameters of the tournament. These bodies represent human minds and decision-making capabilities, and thus do not constitute an unfair advantage." A mix of cheers and angry shouts filled the chamber. As Gerald and his team filed out, he caught sight of Zixalara, the Arcturian diplomat. She gave him a subtle nod of approval before disappearing into the crowd. With the political hurdles cleared, the human team turned their focus to the next challenge. They gathered in a preparation room, studying holographic projections of the massive labyrinth they would soon face. "All right, team," Gerald said, his voice filled with tenacity. "This challenge will test our ability to work together and solve problems under pressure. We each bring unique skills to the table, and it's time to put them to use." As they entered the labyrinth, the human team was immediately confronted with their first major obstacle, a chasm too wide to jump, with a shimmering force field blocking any attempt to climb or fly across. Dr. Simpson stepped forward, her eyes scanning the force field intently. "The energy signature here is fascinating," she mused. "I believe it can be disrupted by a specific frequency of sound waves." Maria's eyes lit up. "Sound waves, you say? I might be able to help with that." Drawing on her knowledge of acoustics from her years as a performer, Maria began to produce a series of tones, adjusting the pitch and frequency based on Dr. Simpson's guidance. Suddenly, the force field flickered and died. "Quick!" Gerald shouted. "It won't last long." The team sprinted across the chasm, making it to the other side just as the force field snapped back into place. They shared a moment of exhilaration before pressing on into the depths of the ever-changing maze. As they progressed, the challenges grew increasingly complex. Holographic enemies sprang from hidden projectors, their weapons surprisingly capable of affecting the physical world. Major Steele took point, his combat skills proving invaluable as he expertly dispatched the threats. "Watch your six," he called out, ducking under a holographic blade before countering with a swift strike that caused the projection to dissipate. These things might not be real, but they can still pack a punch. Sarah's agility came into play as they encountered a series of moving platforms suspended over a void. She leapt from one to another with inhuman grace, her android body allowing her to push the limits of her already impressive acrobatic skills. "Follow my lead," she called back to the others. "Time your jumps with the platform movements. It's all about rhythm." Throughout it all, Captain O'Neill's steady presence kept the team grounded. His experience in high-pressure environments helped them maintain focus and calm, even as the labyrinth's challenges grew more intense. "Stay frosty, people," he reminded them as they paused to regroup. "Remember your training. We've all faced worse than this and come out on top." Finally, they reached the labyrinth's final chamber. Before them stood a massive, multi-layered puzzle that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Glowing symbols and shifting geometric shapes covered every surface. "This is it," Gerald said, surveying the room. "We need to solve this faster than any other team if we want to stay in the running." Dr. Simpson's eyes darted from one symbol to another, her processor working overtime to decipher the puzzle's logic. "It requires simultaneous actions in different locations," she announced. "We'll need to split up." Gerald nodded, quickly assigning positions based on each team member's strengths. As they moved into place, he felt a surge of pride. This diverse group of humans transported across the galaxy and housed in unfamiliar bodies was working together like a well-oiled machine. "On my mark," Gerald called out. 3, 2, 1, now!" The chamber came alive with activity as each team member performed their assigned task. Maria manipulated a series of holographic controls, her illusionist skills allowing her to see through the misdirections built into the interface. Major Steele and Captain O'Neill worked in tandem to realign a series of massive gears, their enhanced strength making the task possible. Sarah traversed a complex web of laser beams, her flexibility and spatial awareness allowing her to trigger sensors in a specific sequence. Dr. Simpson called out instructions, her brilliant mind having unraveled the puzzle's underlying logic. With a final resounding click, the puzzle was solved. The chamber shuddered and a hidden door slid open, revealing the exit. As they emerged from the labyrinth, exhausted but triumphant, they were met with a cacophony of cheers and shocked exclamations. The holographic leaderboard flickered to life, showing Earth's standing had rocketed up to the top 3. Gerald felt a mixture of elation and trepidation as he observed the reactions of the other species. Some looked at the human team with newfound respect, while others seemed angry or fearful. Pryler hurried over to them, his tail swishing with agitation. "Congratulations on your success," he said quickly, "but I'm afraid our troubles are far from finished. Your performance has caused quite a stir in the galactic community." Before Gerald could respond, he noticed a group of alien diplomats huddled together, casting furtive glances in their direction. Among them was the Petrosian representative, his massive form impossible to miss. "What's going on?" Gerald asked, a sense of unease growing in his gut. Pryler's ears flattened against his head. "Politics," he said grimly. "It seems some influential species are forming a coalition to lobby for Earth's disqualification. They're citing the use of android bodies and your unorthodox tactics as violations of the tournament spirit." Gerald's heart sank. They had come so far, overcome so much, only to face a threat from the political arena. As he watched the diplomats argue, he knew that the next battle they faced would not be in the arena, but in the complex web of galactic politics. With 2 challenges remaining and Earth standing in the universe hanging in the balance, Gerald and his team steeled themselves for the trials ahead. The Galactic Strength Tournament had become about much more than physical prowess or problem-solving skills. It had become a fight for humanity's place among the stars. Stars among the cosmos. As the human team basked in their recent success, a message from the Intergalactic Council interrupted their brief moment of celebration. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the crystalline form of the Council's head. Contestants, your next challenge awaits. Prepare yourselves for the ultimate test of survival and adaptability. Gerald and his teammates exchanged glances, their android bodies still bearing the marks of their previous ordeal. Before they could discuss the announcement, a blinding light enveloped them, and they felt the familiar sensation of teleportation. When the light faded, Gerald found himself alone in a nightmarish landscape. The air was thick and oppressive, pressing down on him with a force that threatened to crush his android form. Toxic gases swirled around him, their corrosive nature evident as they ate away at the nearby rocks. High-gravity planet with a toxic atmosphere, Gerald muttered, his processors working overtime to analyze his surroundings. He quickly realized that even his enhanced android body was struggling in these extreme conditions. Acting swiftly, Gerald scanned the area for usable materials. He spotted some strange, fibrous plants nearby that seemed resistant to the corrosive atmosphere. Using his enhanced strength, he uprooted several of them and began weaving them into a makeshift filter. As he worked, Gerald's mind raced with possibilities. If I can create a filtration system for the air, I might be able to reduce the strain on my body's systems, he thought. Within hours, Gerald had fashioned a crude but effective filtration mask. He attached it to his face, feeling immediate relief as the toxic gases were partially neutralized. However, the crushing gravity remained a significant obstacle. Surveying his surroundings once more, Gerald noticed the remnants of what appeared to be an ancient alien structure. The debris was scattered across the landscape, some of it made from an incredibly durable material. This might work, Gerald mused, an idea forming in his mind. He began collecting the strongest pieces of debris, using his engineering knowledge to construct a makeshift exoskeleton. The process was arduous, each movement a struggle against the planet's oppressive gravity. Meanwhile, in a vastly different environment, Dr. Emily Simpson found herself on a world that defied conventional physics. Crystalline formations jutted out at impossible angles, their razor-sharp edges glinting in the pale light of the planet's twin suns. Emily's android body suddenly lurched as the gravity shifted, nearly sending her careening into a nearby crystal spire. She quickly steadied herself, her mind already analyzing the pattern of the fluctuations. "Fascinating," she murmured, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her sense of danger. The gravity shifts seemed to follow a complex but predictable pattern. As Emily observed her surroundings, she noticed that the crystals seemed to resonate with energy. An idea struck her, and she carefully approached one of the smaller formations. "If I can harness this energy," she thought, "I might be able to use it to power my systems more efficiently." Using her knowledge of physics and engineering, Emily began to experiment with the crystals, carefully aligning them to create an energy amplification array. As she worked, she used the gravity fluctuations to her advantage, timing her movements to coincide with periods of lower gravity to conserve energy. Across the biodome, the other team members faced their own unique challenges. Major Marcus Steele found himself on the tidally locked planet, the stark divide between scorching heat and freezing cold presenting a formidable obstacle. Steele's military training kicked in as he surveyed the terrain. "Establish a base of operations first," he reminded himself, scanning for a suitable location in the temperate zone between the two extremes. Using debris and materials scavenged from both the hot and cold zones, Steele constructed a rudimentary shelter. As he worked, an idea began to form. "If I can harness the temperature differential," he mused, "I might be able to create a sustainable power source." In the crushing depths of the ocean world, Sarah Ninkosi's gymnastics background proved invaluable. Her android body moved with fluid grace through the water, evading the enormous bioluminescent predators that lurked in the darkness. Sarah discovered that certain marine plants emitted a bright glow when disturbed. She collected several of these, using them to create diversions when needed. "It's just like using spotlights during a performance," she thought, a smile playing across her face despite the dangerous situation. On the radiation-bathed desert planet, Captain Jack O'Neill's experience in harsh environments came to the fore. He quickly constructed a shelter using the planet's red sand, compacting it into a dome-like structure that offered some protection from the intense radiation and fierce sandstorms. As O'Neill worked, he noticed that his android body seemed to react to the radiation in an unexpected way. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered, realizing that he could potentially use the radiation to power his systems. Unbeknownst to her teammates, Maria Rodriguez faced a challenge of a different sort. Captured by a group of hostile alien contestants, she found herself in a makeshift prison cell, her captors discussing their plans to sabotage the other competitors. Maria's mind raced as she assessed her situation. Her fingers, still as nimble in her android form as they had been in her human body, worked at the bindings holding her in place. Just another escape act, she thought to herself, a plan already forming in her mind. As the 72-hour mark approached, each member of the human team had not only survived, but thrived in their respective environments. Gerald's exoskeleton allowed him to move freely in the high-gravity world, completing his objectives with surprising efficiency. Emily's crystal energy array had supercharged her android body, allowing her to navigate the treacherous crystalline landscape with ease. Steele's temperature differential power system had allowed him to explore both the hot and cold extremes of his planet, while Sarah had mapped a significant portion of her ocean world, using the bioluminescent life forms to her advantage. O'Neill had turned his radiation-soaked environment from a threat into a power source, completing his objectives ahead of schedule. Maria, having escaped her captors, had managed to sabotage the plans of the Alien Alliance, indirectly aiding her teammates and other competitors. Her actions, however, remained unknown to the rest of her team. As the challenge drew to a close, the human team's success was undeniable. Their performance in environments that would have been lethal to their human forms showcased humanity's adaptability and ingenuity in ways that shocked many of the alien observers. Yet, as they were teleported back to the central arena, the toll of their ordeal was evident. Their android bodies, while intact, showed significant signs of wear and damage. Gerald's exoskeleton had fused to his body in places, while Emily's systems still crackled with excess energy from the crystals. Steele's temperature-regulating systems were struggling to stabilize, and Sarah's joints creaked from the pressure of the ocean depths. O'Neill's outer casing showed signs of radiation damage, and Maria bore the marks of her captivity and escape. As the team reunited, exhausted but triumphant, they became aware of a commotion among the alien spectators and officials. Pryler hurried towards them, his expression a mix of concern and excitement. "Your performance was extraordinary," he said, his tail swishing agitatedly. "But I'm afraid it's caused quite a stir. The alien coalition opposing Earth's participation has grown more vocal, and there are whispers of cheating and sabotage among multiple species." Before the team could respond, a booming voice echoed through the arena. The head of the Intergalactic Council appeared on the central holographic display, its crystalline form pulsing with energy. "Attention, all participants and observers," the being announced. "In light of recent events and allegations, the Council must convene to address serious concerns regarding the integrity of the Galactic Strength Tournament. All further challenges are suspended until our investigation is complete." As the announcement faded, Gerald and his team exchanged worried glances. Their success had come at a great cost, and now the future of the tournament and Earth standing in the galactic community hung in the balance. With their android bodies damaged and their fate uncertain, they braced themselves for what promised to be their greatest challenge yet, navigating the treacherous waters of intergalactic politics. The tension in the arena was palpable as the Intergalactic Council's investigation dragged on. Days turned into weeks, and the human team found themselves in a state of limbo, their damaged android bodies a constant reminder of the challenges they had faced. Gerald paced restlessly in their assigned quarters, his artificial joints creaking with each step. "This waiting is killing me," he muttered, glancing at his teammates. Emily looked up from the diagnostic panel she had been studying. "I've been analyzing our body's performance data. The damage is more extensive than we initially thought. Even if the tournament resumes, I'm not sure these forms will hold up for another challenge." Before anyone could respond, the arena's communication system crackled to life. The crystalline form of the council's head materialized before them, its facets shimmering with an intense light. "After thorough investigation, we have uncovered evidence of widespread cheating and sabotage among multiple species," the being announced, its voice reverberating through the arena. In light of these findings, the Council has made the decision to nullify all previous challenge results. A cacophony of protests erupted from the gathered alien spectators and competitors. The Council's head pulsed brightly, silencing the crowd. "To ensure fairness and determine the galaxy's truly strongest species, we will hold one final, ultimate test," it continued. "A planet-wide obstacle course on an uninhabited world. Each species will select a team of 6 to compete. The first team to cross the finish line will be declared the winners, earning their species the title of the galaxy's strongest and most valuable civilization." As the announcement concluded, the human team exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and apprehension evident in their expressions. "This is our chance," Gerald said, his voice filled with commitment. "We can prove ourselves once and for all." Emily's brow furrowed as she considered their situation. "There's just one problem," she said, gesturing to their android bodies. "These forms won't last through another challenge. The systems are failing faster than I can repair them." A heavy silence fell over the group as they contemplated their options. It was Maria who finally broke the tension, her eyes gleaming with a daring idea. "What if we don't use the android bodies?" she suggested. "What if we compete as ourselves, as humans?" The proposal was met with stunned silence, followed by a flurry of objections and concerns. Major Steele voiced the thoughts on everyone's mind. "That's suicide. We'd be going up against species with natural abilities far beyond our own." "But it's also our greatest strength," Gerald countered, warming to the idea. "Our adaptability, our teamwork, our ability to think on our feet. That's what got us this far. Maybe it's time we showed the galaxy what humans are truly capable of." As the team debated, Pryler entered their quarters, his feline features creased with worry. "I've heard about the Council's decision," he said. "Surely you're not considering competing in your original forms. The environmental hazards alone could be fatal." Gerald met the Caraxian's gaze steadily. "We are," he confirmed. "This is humanity's chance to prove its worth on a galactic scale. We can't back down now." Pryler's tail swished agitatedly, but he saw the persistence in the human's eyes and knew there was no dissuading them. "Then may the cosmic winds be at your back," he said solemnly. As news of the human's decision spread, it sent shockwaves through the alien spectators. Many viewed it as a foolhardy, even suicidal move. Others admired the audacity, even if they doubted the human's chances of success. The day of the final challenge arrived. The 6 human team members stood at the starting line, their unaugmented bodies a stark contrast to the varied and impressive forms of their alien competitors. The Petrosians, led by the towering Grokthar, cast imposing shadows over the humans. A hush fell over the gathered crowd as the Council's head appeared, a holographic projection visible to all competitors and spectators. "Competitors, you face a test that will push you to your absolute limits," it announced. "This course combines elements from all previous challenges. You will need strength, endurance, adaptability, combat skills, and problem-solving abilities to succeed. The first team to reach the finish line will be declared the winner. May the truly strongest prevail." A piercing tone signaled the start of the challenge, and the team surged forward. Immediately, the humans found themselves at a disadvantage. The Petrosians took an early lead, their silicon-based bodies easily withstanding the harsh terrain. Other alien teams also pulled ahead, their natural abilities allowing them to navigate obstacles with ease. Gerald gritted his teeth as he watched their competitors disappear into the distance. "Stick to the plan," he called out to his team. "We pace ourselves, we work together, and we look for opportunities the others might miss." As they pressed on, the humans began to find their rhythm. Major Steele's tactical expertise came to the fore as he directed the team through the treacherous landscape, finding efficient routes that the more physically capable aliens had overlooked. They came upon a series of towering crystal formations, their surfaces reflecting the light in disorienting patterns. Several alien teams were struggling to navigate the maze-like structures. Saren and Kosi's agility proved invaluable here as she nimbly led her teammates through gaps and crevices too small for their larger competitors. "This way," Sarah called, gesturing to a narrow fissure. "I can see a clearer path on the other side." As they emerged from the crystal maze, they found themselves facing a vast expanse of shifting sands and blistering heat. Captain O'Neill took point, his experience in extreme environments guiding them safely across the desert-like terrain. "Keep your breathing steady and stay close," O'Neill instructed. "There's a pattern to these dunes. We can use them to our advantage." Slowly but surely, the human team began to make up ground. Their diverse skills and ability to adapt to each new challenge allowed them to navigate the course more efficiently than many of their alien counterparts. Midway through the challenge, disaster struck. A massive earthquake rocked the planet, causing widespread destruction and dramatically altering the landscape. Chasms opened in the earth, mountains crumbled, and entire sections of the course were obliterated. Many alien teams were thrown into disarray, struggling to adapt to the suddenly changed terrain. The human team, however, saw opportunity in the chaos. "This is our chance," Gerald shouted over the rumbling of the earth. "Maria, we need your skills. Find us a path through this mess." Maria's eyes darted across the transformed landscape, her mind already formulating unconventional routes. "There," she pointed to a precariously balanced rock formation. "If we time it right, we can use that as a bridge before it collapses." With Maria's guidance, the team navigated the treacherous new terrain, using the debris and altered landscape to their advantage. They emerged from the chaos to find themselves in second place, trailing only the Petrosians. As they approached the final obstacle, a sheer cliff face leading to the finish line, they saw the Petrosians already beginning their ascent. The silicon-based aliens scaled the cliff with ease, their powerful limbs finding purchase where there seemed to be none. The human team skidded to a halt at the base of the cliff, their bodies heaving with exertion. The task before them seemed impossible. Their physical strength was all but spent, and they had no equipment to aid in the climb. "We didn't come this far to fail now," Gerald panted, his eyes scanning the cliff face for any advantage they could use. Emily's gaze was fixed on the cliff, her mind racing. "The mineral composition," she murmured, her eyes widening with sudden realization. "I have an idea, but it's risky." As Emily quickly outlined her plan, the rest of the team gathered the necessary materials. With their combined knowledge and skills, they constructed a crude electromagnetic pulse device. "If this works," Emily explained, her fingers deftly making the final adjustments, "it should temporarily disrupt the Petrosians' bodily functions. It won't harm them, but it should buy us the time we need." With a silent prayer, Gerald activated the device. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then above them, they heard cries of confusion. The Petrosians' limbs seemed to spasm, and they lost their grip on the cliff face, sliding down several meters before managing to secure themselves again. "Yeah, now's our chance," Gerald shouted. "Climb!" The human team began their ascent, their muscles screaming in protest with every movement. They used every scrap of their remaining strength and ingenuity, finding handholds and footholds where none seemed to exist. Halfway up the cliff, they heard the sounds of other teams arriving at the base. The Petrosians, having recovered from the electromagnetic pulse, were once again making swift progress. "We're not going to make it," Sarah gasped, her fingers bleeding from the rough stone. Gerald, slightly above the others, reached down. Yes, we are, he grunted. Together, like we've done everything else. With a Herculean effort, Gerald helped pull his teammates up the last few meters of the cliff. As alien spectators watched in disbelief, the 6 humans staggered across the finish line as one, collapsing in an exhausted heap. For a moment, silence reigned. Then a deafening roar erupted from the watching crowds. The impossible had happened. Earth, the newcomer to the galactic stage, had won the Galactic Strength Tournament. As the team struggled to their feet, supporting each other, they saw the crystalline form of the Council's head materialize before them. Humans of Earth, it began, its tone carrying a note of what might have been awe. You have achieved what many thought impossible. Your victory here today will have far-reaching consequences for your species and for the galaxy as a whole. Gerald, his body aching but his spirit soaring, stepped forward. We're ready, he said, his voice hoarse but firm. Whatever comes next, Earth will face it head-on. As the implications of their victory began to sink in, the human team knew that their journey was a long way to go. They had proven humanity's worth on a galactic scale, but the real challenges and opportunities were only just beginning. As the implications of their victory began to sink in, the human team knew that their journey was nowhere near the end. They had proven humanity's worth on a galactic scale, but the real challenges and opportunities were only just starting to unfold. The crystalline head of the Council pulsed with a kaleidoscope of colors as it addressed the exhausted human team. Your performance has sent shockwaves through the galactic community. An emergency session of the Intergalactic Council has been called to address this unprecedented outcome. Before Gerald could respond, a team of alien medical personnel swarmed around them, their various appendages wielding unfamiliar devices. We must ensure your physical well-being, a multi-eyed being explained, its voice translating through a small device attached to what appeared to be its thorax. Please, come with us. The human team exchanged glances, their bodies aching but their minds alert. They followed the medical team to a sleek facility that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. Inside, they were ushered into separate examination rooms. Dr. Emily Simpson found herself working alongside the alien medical staff, her expertise in human physiology proving invaluable. She watched in fascination as holographic displays lit up with detailed scans of their bodies. Remarkable, one of the alien doctors murmured, its tentacles waving in what Emily interpreted as excitement. By all accounts, the stress you endured should have been fatal to your species. Yet here you stand, battered but alive. Emily leaned in to examine the scans more closely. It appears our bodies have undergone some form of rapid adaptation, she observed. Look at the cellular structure. It's unlike anything I've seen before. As the medical team continued their examination, Preeler entered the facility, his feline features creased with concern. He gestured for Gerald to join him in a quiet corner. The political situation is complicated, Preeler explained, his tail twitching nervously. Several powerful species are calling for your victory to be nullified. They claim that humans are too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed free rein in the galaxy. Gerald's teeth gritted. After everything we've been through, they want to take it away on a technicality? Prylar's ears flattened against his head. It's more than that. They're afraid. Your victory has upset the balance of power that has existed for millennia. Gerald paced the small area, his mind racing. Suddenly he stopped, turning to face Prylar with a determined expression. We need to show them more than just our physical capabilities. Arrange a public demonstration, not just of strength or problem-solving, but of everything that makes us human. Art, music, culture, the full spectrum of our abilities. Prylar's whiskers twitched with interest. An intriguing proposal. I will present it to the Council immediately. Over the next few days, as the human team recovered, additional humans were brought to Nexus Prime using the consciousness transfer technology. The alien world buzzed with anticipation as news of the upcoming demonstration spread. The event began in a vast amphitheater, its architecture a blend of organic forms and crystalline structures. Thousands of alien species filled the seats, their varied anatomies creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. Dr. Simpson took the stage first, her holographic displays showcasing human advancements in physics and engineering. The audience watched in rapt attention as she explained concepts that bridged the gap between human understanding and alien technologies. While our current level of technology may seem primitive compared to many of your species, Emily concluded, our rate of advancement and our ability to integrate new concepts is unparalleled. Major Steele followed, demonstrating human military tactics through a series of holographic simulations. He emphasized adaptability and quick thinking, showing how humans could turn disadvantages into strategic strengths. The atmosphere in the amphitheater shifted as Sarah Nkosi took center stage. Her lithe form moved with impossible grace as she performed a gymnastics routine that left the alien audience in awe. Her body twisted and turned in ways that seemed to defy the laws of physics, a living demonstration of the human body's potential. Captain O'Neill's presentation on human exploration elicited a mix of gasps and murmurs from the crowd. He recounted tales of early sea voyages, polar expeditions, and space missions, emphasizing humanity's drive to push beyond known boundaries. We are a species driven by curiosity, O'Neill explained, his voice carrying across the amphitheater. Every horizon is a challenge, every unknown a call to adventure. Maria Rodriguez brought a touch of wonder to the proceedings with her magic show. The concept of illusion was foreign to many alien species, and her performance left them questioning their own perceptions. Gasps of amazement rippled through the crowd as she appeared to manipulate reality itself, showcasing the human ability to inspire awe and mystery. The demonstration culminated in a musical performance that left an indelible mark on the alien audience. A fusion of Earth's diverse musical styles filled the amphitheater, its harmonies and rhythms unlike anything the gathered species had experienced before. The emotional depth of the music transcended language barriers, touching something primal and universal. As the final notes faded away, a hush fell over the amphitheater. The alien species, many of whom had been hostile or suspicious just days before, now regarded the humans with a mix of fascination and respect. In the council chamber, the mood had shifted dramatically. Species that had called for Earth's disqualification now argued for their inclusion. The Petrosian delegation, sensing the changing tide, reluctantly withdrew their objections. Gerald and his team stood before the council as the final vote was tallied. The crystalline head of the council pulsed with a brilliant light as it announced the decision. By an overwhelming majority, the Intergalactic Council has voted to uphold the results of the Galactic Strength Tournament and to extend an invitation for Earth to join as a full member of the galactic community. A cheer erupted from the gathered species, the sound a cacophony of alien vocalizations. Gerald stepped forward, his heart pounding as he prepared to address the council on behalf of humanity. We accept this invitation with humility and gratitude, he began, his voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. Earth stands ready to learn from and contribute to the galactic community. We bring with us our unique perspective, our creativity, and our unwavering spirit of exploration. As Gerald continued his speech, emphasizing humanity's desire to maintain their identity while embracing their new role in the cosmos, Pryler approached with news from Earth. The global reaction to their victory and subsequent invitation was one of jubilation and hope. Governments worldwide were already mobilizing to prepare for this new era of human history. The ceremony concluded, and the human team found themselves aboard an alien ship preparing for their journey home. As they looked out at the vast expanse of space, each member of the team reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. Gerald stood at the ship's viewport, watching as Nexus Prime grew smaller in the distance. The planet where humanity's galactic adventure had begun was now just another point of light in the cosmic tapestry. As the ship prepared to enter faster-than-light travel, Gerald felt a smile tugging at his lips. This was not an ending, but a beginning, the first step into a universe of boundless potential. The stars stretched into lines of light as the ship accelerated, carrying humanity's representatives back to Earth. Their mission was accomplished, but their work was a long way to go. As Gerald turned away from the viewport, he saw the persistence mirrored in his teammates' eyes. They had proven humanity's worth, and now it was time to lead their species into a new age of galactic citizenship.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.